We are the National Disability and Carers Card Scheme, and we're interviewing interesting people about their lived experiences of disability and caregiving. So let's jump in. Well, welcome back to another episode of the National Disability and Carers Card Scheme podcast. And today we are joined by Ed and Suzie. And we're very happy to have you with us today.
Thank you.
So we're going to talk about a range of topics covering rare conditions, hidden disabilities, and sort of living with that and living as a carer. So let's just get into it. Perhaps you could start by telling us a little bit about your journey.
Journey as in journey?
Journey to where
you
are today on this podcast, I guess.
Yeah. I was diagnosed with a condition called pure autonomic failure nearly a decade ago. It's a progressive illness. It's very rare, manifests itself in various different ways, but anything that your body does automatically can be affected. For me, the worst symptom is postural hypertension, which means that my blood pressure crashes whenever I stand up. It has caused me to faint in the past, but it has devastating effects because it's a completely hidden disability. I am getting tired of people saying how well I look when I'm teetering on the edge of fainting. So it can be very, very, very difficult. It affects every aspect of your life. I'm fortunate that I'm under the care of University College London Hospital's neurology department, but they have a cohort of patients. I think we believe that there's 180 that they look after. So it's quite a rare disease.
Yeah.
It is progressive. It is incurable. So they literally just manage the symptoms. It's progressing slowly. We started the support group because there was no support for people with PAF. And it's always difficult for PAF patients to understand what's wrong. What we found since we started the group is that people are talking about their symptoms and medications and experiences that they have. We put out there things like the disability cards that you produce yourselves, along with other things as well, other aids to
helping.
If you'd like to say a few words about that.
Every day. Well, I think your journey started one morning when I'd had no sleep. You'd been thrashing about at night, which is another symptom of PAF, and I shouted at you, and
you did.
We Googled, which we don't usually do on a medical condition, and the first thing that came up was Parkinson's. So we then went to the doctor and said, this is a range of symptoms that we've Googled, and she sent us straight to a neurology department, didn't she, in Gloucester?
Yeah.
And that's where your diagnosis first sort of started.
Yeah.
PAF can turn into MSA and it can turn into Parkinson's. So we were sort of along the right lines, but then it developed into this pure autonomic failure, which is sort of simply put, everything that you and I would do automatically fails in a person that's got pure autonomic failure. So blood pressure, temperature range is very, very limited, digestion, so all that is actually failing in a person with PAF.
And was it difficult to get to the point where you had that confirmed diagnosis? Was there confusion with other...
It's so unknown that most GPs would never have heard of it. One of the things that we did produce was what we call the Janet and John sheet, which details all the symptoms that are possible. And no two people's PAF is the same because you don't have all the symptoms.
Yeah.
Some people have hypertension, some have hypertension, digestive problems, heart problems, and all sorts of things. But nobody has them all. So it's like a pack of cards. You pick which ones you've got. So what we're finding is that GPs in particular are not joining the dots. So there's a group, somebody will present with a group of symptoms, but they're not joining the dots to say, hold on a minute, this is an autonomic problem rather than, it's a gastric problem or it's low blood pressure or it's high blood pressure.
I think the thing with PAF is to diagnose it, things are ruled out first, aren't they? You know, and then you come to the diagnosis of that.
So that can take a while.
Yes, yeah. You were very lucky because Gloucester sort of diagnosed the protein in the brain, didn't they? And then from there we went to London. So, but some people it can take years to get a diagnosis, and London are the only hospital in the country that actually deal with PAF.
Yeah. They have a specialist autonomic unit.
Yes. Yeah. So it's quite. Some people have waited 18 months for a letter to get an appointment there, because it is so rare, and GPs, understandably, in hospitals don't know about the condition.
Yeah.
And it's entirely invisible. Unless I'm collapsed on the floor, people don't think there's anything wrong at all, which is where things like the lanyards help.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're fed up of people saying how well you look, your family especially.
I've lost weight because of one of my medications. I am a bit fed up of people saying to me how well I look.
So you've got those sort of misconceptions or assumptions that, you know, you look well, so you must be well.
Yeah, and the classic case is I've got a blue parking badge. And people look at me as if to say, well, you're not disabled. Whereas I can only walk about 20 yards before I've got a problem.
I guess, how has it impacted different areas of your life? You mentioned, obviously, those misconceptions or people not believing that you are living with PAF. How has it impacted different areas of your life, whether it's work, whether it's family?
I think sometimes when we're out, we've had an incident where you did faint in the street.
I collapsed in the street.
And people think you're drunk. People sort of skirt round you, don't they? When you know.
I had an instance on a train where there was a packed train. I couldn't sit down, so I was standing, and I was within milliseconds of collapsing. I got the lanyard on, and somebody gave up their seat for me. Otherwise, I'd have ended up in a heap on the floor. And I can't stop it. Once I feel it going, I either have to sit or lie down. Otherwise, I just pass out.
But I think it impacts every aspect of daily life, as in waking up in the morning. You have to stay in bed for sort of an hour, don't you, to let the tablets kick in. Even having a shave can take you 3/4 of an hour, because you have to keep sitting down and you know, resting. Anything with sort of arms above shoulder level, or washing your hair in the shower, anything like that can bring on an episode. It's things like, if we go anywhere, you have to make sure there's lifts, there's accessibility. It's just, if you have a bad day, even getting up and making a cup of coffee can be a real challenge for the sufferers to do. And sometimes I think as a carer, you're there thinking, why can't they do it? You know, they look well, why can't they? Why can't they make their own coffee? And sometimes they just simply can't, because as soon as they get up off of the chair, their blood pressure crashes and they're on the floor.
Well, everyday life, I suffer with what's called coat hanger pain, which is a pain across my shoulders. Apparently it's because there's not enough blood supply to the neck muscles. So if I'm trying to prepare food or something, I get this dreadful pain across my back of my shoulders. It's things like that you know, you can't see.
Yeah. So there really is that impact on day-to-day activity.
I couldn't cut the grass, for instance, even with a motor mower. I couldn't do it.
You can't sort of wash up, can you? Because that brings on the
pain.
But every simple task has to be either planned or they don't do it. If we're going somewhere,
you learn to live with it.
In the car, we've got a stick with a seat on, so that, you know, if we're going anywhere, I can sit down if need be. But a lot of people, we found, are not sort of planning holidays or anything anymore, or planning anything, because they don't know how that person's going to be on that day. Because it can vary from day to day. Sometimes you have good days and you can't mow the lawn or anything, but you can do every day.
I can supervise.
Simple stuff. And other days they just can't do anything. And again, I think it's because you look okay, you look fine. People don't realise how hidden this is.
And that goes for close family members as well, but they don't understand that it is a problem. Several members of my family are medical professionals, and even they've never heard of it. So it's tough.
Yeah.
We couldn't contemplate travelling abroad, for instance, because my comfort range in temperature ranges between about 18 degrees to 22, 23 at the most.
Which is where we usually have the arguments, because I like it cold and you like it warm, so the heating is...
I think it's a common household argument. But,
it's extreme.
Yes.
I mean, the other thing is, Suzie mentioned sort of sleep disorder. It's called REM sleep disorder, where I act out my dreams. But Suzie and I had to sleep divorce. We have separate bedrooms, otherwise neither of us would get any sleep. And we've only been married 3 years, so people look at us and just say, well, how does that work?
So there is, the impact on family life is also quite high. It would be nice to talk about coming to the awareness piece, because you've obviously had this journey, you have got the diagnosis, but you've also run into all of these things where people don't understand, or even medical professionals have never heard of it, things like that. So where are you now? What are you now doing to kind of raise awareness and get together with others?
I started a WhatsApp group a year February, just because when we went down to London, we asked about support groups, because we did feel very, very isolated, and we thought we were the only people in the world going through this. So they said there wasn't anything. The MSA Trust was sort of the nearest thing, because they deal with low blood pressure, but the rest of the symptoms weren't conducive with PAF. So I started a WhatsApp group that we've now got about 42 members. That's partners and people suffering with PAF. And that's been a platform for people to ask questions. We're non-medical, we don't know medical, but it's people ask, are you on this medication? Does it have this side effect? It's people to say that they've got a bad day, and can anybody help with anything, or have we been somewhere, and what's the accessibility like? We have also just last week started a English Facebook page, because there is an American one, but the medication's so much different, and the hospitals are so much different over there. And we've got a very simple website that we've just launched last week that will be updated as we move forward with things, but we just wanted it launched so people know the things out there. So if they can, if they think they've got any of the symptoms, it might be somewhere for them to turn just for support, rather than a medical.
It's more of a forum than anything medical.
Finding community.
Yes.
Not feeling isolated.
Yes, definitely. Because as I say, when we started on this journey, we just didn't know anybody else. Your doctor, unfortunately, didn't know anything about it.
The GP didn't know.
No. So that was a real learning curve as well. But, if you've got something like Parkinson's, which this can turn into, there's a big community out there for that. There's lots of research going into Parkinson's at the moment, whereas there isn't with this.
If you're enjoying listening to this interview, make sure to like this video, follow and subscribe, and hit the bell notification to get notified each time we make a new video. You can also head over to our websites, where we have a whole range of helpful articles on living with a disability or being a carer. And for more bite-sized videos, follow us on Instagram or on TikTok. Okay, back to the interview.
I think part of the problem is that pure autonomic failure is not fatal.
You can die of complications, but not actually
you could die from being run over by a bus by fainting in the street, but as the consultant said, he says you're going to die with this, not because of it.
Yeah. I think a lot of what you said is going to be very relatable for the people watching, because although they might not have PAF specifically, they might have another hidden disability where they encounter some of the same assumptions, or the good days and the bad days, things like that. So I think it's a lot of people will find this really relatable and very helpful as well to what they're going through. Maybe switching gears slightly, and a little bit more about the sort of the caregiving side of things, which I know that you mentioned you both have experience with in life.
I've had it from both sides of the fence. Unfortunately, I lost my wife, my first wife. In fact, it'll be 10 years ago this December. She had a devastating stroke in 2010, which left her hemiplegic, left-sided, which was unfortunate because she was profoundly left-handed, so it didn't help at all. So I had to give up work to care for her. So, and that's when I first noticed there was a problem for me whilst doing my sort of care duties. First thing in the morning, I was putting her shoes on, I was bent down, and I sat back up and promptly fainted. And I was thinking, that's not right. And that was way back in 2010. So I've effectively had this for 15 years. But so I cared for her until she passed away in 2016. So I've had experience of having to care for somebody, and now to have to be cared for, or have somebody that cares for you in as much as looks after you.
What has that been like, sort of seeing the other side, so to speak?
I understand why people that are receiving care get so agitated about it. A care is given with love, doesn't always come back. I found that my wife was getting angry. She was angry with herself because she needed to be helped. I don't get angry with Susie for being helped, but it does cause friction sometimes when she gets overzealous with the care. You say, well, I'm fine. You know, I don't need to be told to do this or whatever. But it's simply that care is coming from a love base more than anything else. So yes, I've seen both sides of the fence, if you like.
Yeah.
Being a caregiver and then a care receiver, my condition will worsen over time. Nobody can tell me where I'm going to be in 5 years or 10 years. I mean, I'm approaching, so I'll be 70 next year. A lot of the group members, the support group members, are older than me, so I'm sort of hearing what symptoms they've got. And I have to say, I'm finding it quite frightening as to where this could lead. That support is going to be needed more and more, and it's going to restrict the things that we can do. So at the moment, we're trying to do a lot of things that we perhaps won't be able to do in the future. As an example of that is I spent my business life travelling the world. So the world is done as far as I'm concerned. I couldn't stand another long haul flight.
No.
I think my illness wouldn't allow me to now.
And that's another thing. It's like going abroad, nobody sort of knows what the insurance is like because nobody's heard of PAF. So it's not on their list of things that, you know, they insure. Yeah. So we don't know sort of at the moment. A couple of members have asked, you know, do we know what the travel is? And we just don't, because it's not on their list of things that they would have heard of, let alone cover. Yeah. So, you know, it might be a broad spectrum, and they might then choose to put it be more expensive because they don't know. They don't know what it is, and they don't know what it entails if you need a hospital visit while you're abroad.
Well, the danger is that you have a fall. A couple of the group members have just come back from the United States, and they didn't declare the condition to the insurance company, and I thought that's taking an awful risk in the United States.
Definitely.
It can cost thousands just to have an ambulance called. And you collapse in the street, they're going to call an ambulance. So
yeah, it's not a risk you really. Most people probably don't want to.
So just going back to my point is that whilst we're not travelling abroad, we're exploring the United Kingdom at the moment and thoroughly enjoying doing it. But we're doing it now.
Yeah.
In case I can't do it in the future. It's simple things like go somewhere like, let's say, St Ives or whatever, where it's quite hilly. The streets can be quite steep. I've got no chance. I mean, walking up a slope is as bad as going up a flight of stairs. So
well, here in Suffolk, it's very flat. So
we've got to move to Suffolk.
We hope you enjoy having a look around the flats.
We live in the Cotswolds.
Less flat in the Cotswolds. And the caregiving experience for you, Suzie. So did you find it easy to kind of recognise yourself as a caregiver, as a carer, or was that a bit of a journey as well?
I think that was a bit of a journey. Both my parents have now passed away, but I was looking after those as well at weekends. So I was leaving Ed on his own at weekends, which wasn't ideal. It just had to happen. But I sort of, it seems like telephoning him every couple of hours to make sure he was still all right. Or we had one incident back in 2022 where I rang and he kept saying, I've had a fall, and nothing else. So I had to leave parents, come back, and yes, he had a fall, but he doesn't know where, he doesn't know why.
I have no memory of it.
No memory at all. So it knocked out about 5-6 hours of your actual memory. Huge bruise on the back of his head. We think he hit the bathroom sink, but wasn't sure.
I knocked myself out.
I got home and he sort of looked at me and said, what are you doing here? And I said, I've rung you. But I had no memory. So it was a trip to the hospital. Had very, very bad concussion. So after that, I was always very wary of leaving on his own. And also, I have to work at the moment, which is, I'm only 7 miles away from where we live for work. So that is a quick phone call if necessary. But you're always wondering in the back of your head, are they all right? I haven't heard from them for a while. Have they fainted? Have they hurt themselves? So
I get fed up with getting text messages all the time saying, how are you? I'm fine. I will let you know.
But yeah, it was, it is sometimes, and again, I'm guilty of it as everybody else is, you look at him and you think, he's fine. And then you go home and you think, why hasn't he put the bin out? Or, just those little tasks that sometimes they just cannot do. Yeah. They just cannot do.
I think sometimes we hear from family carers or carers who are spouses that they will sort of say, I'm just being a good spouse, or maybe I'm just being a good parent to my child. Where do you sort of see those differences, or where's the line, I guess, between I'm being a good spouse and I actually have a caregiving role? Do you have a feeling about that?
You always say to me, you didn't sign up for this, don't you? You didn't, you didn't sign up. When we were first together, and now it's got worse, you say, I don't sign up for this. And I said, but, I love you, I will care for you, and I will do it until, we will face this together. We will face this together, and if it means me caring for you more, then we'll come to that, decision. But as a caregiver, I give it freely, and I don't even think of it as part of a role. I just do it because it's needed, and I think that's part of a spouse and a caregiver all wrapped up into one.
So they're one thing.
Yes. Yeah, I find it, I don't separate it. I find it that, I'm into this.
I had this when we first met, but I didn't realise how it was going to progress.
I guess life can throw anything at you, I suppose, in a sense.
Well, as I said earlier, yes, my first wife's illness literally came as a bolt out of the blue. One day she was fine, the next day she wasn't.
So you understand it from both
I get it from both sides. Yeah, I understand it, which is probably why we don't argue over.
Not much.
the care that you put into it.
We've talked about some of the challenging situations with hidden disability and with PAF specifically. What are some of the adjustments that you find are most helpful when you're going out and about?
That's a very good question.
I think when we're travelling down to London, we have the assisted travel on the rail, which is very, very good, very useful.
I couldn't travel on the train without it, to be honest.
Because the train, they will put us on the train, they will allocate us to our seats. They will then, the other end, for instance in London, we've got a gentleman with a golf buggy that puts all our luggage on and takes us to either the tube station or a taxi rank. So that's really, really good adjustments. And also we found with the disability cards, that we have a lot of places that, for example, National Trust places, Ed couldn't do the say the house and the gardens. So we find them a really good tool because the disability person pays and then the carer gets in free. So that's really, really helpful because it doesn't think if Ed was to have a really funny turn when we were out somewhere, it's not as though I then don't get the feeling of we've wasted our money coming here because you couldn't do.
Well, a classic example of that was Stourhead, which I don't know if you know Stourhead, but the gardens are breathtakingly beautiful. But having done the walk around the lake and the gardens, there's no way I could do the house as well. So we only really did half of the visit.
Yeah, so you don't want to feel that you've spent enough for all of it and not be able to do all of it.
Yeah,
they've been lifesavers for us to get into places and see, because the trouble is with PATH, you can be fine in the mornings when you've done your routine of not getting up too early and then they can just it can switch like a light switch and 1 minute they're okay and the next minute
I do get very
not.
fatigued around about 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
So they have been really, really useful for us.
And
really.
so you mentioned, do you tend to use your lanyards?
Yes.
Or how do you kind of what's another scenario where you've found your National Disability Card and National Carers Card? Theatres have been useful. Shows have been useful.
Yeah, I think we've been to the theatre and venues more than we'd ever been before. Because it's something we can do, but it clearly identifies the fact that you have a disability. A lot of people are wearing lanyards, staff lanyards, so people are not taking as much notice.
You have to really read what's on it.
Yes.
Exactly, which is where the wider lanyards help, because it's clearly visible.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't take the trouble they just see it, but they see it as a security card or whatever.
But on the plus side of that, we have had people when we're wearing them, say for the theatres or shows, that have been more than helpful. Do we want anything? We're based here if you need anything throughout the show. So some people do take notice of them, and I think because they're on a wider lanyard and they're one solid colour, that helps as well, rather than being a fussy lanyard a lot of people have for work.
What we have done as well is we've now got a double card holder. So it has a disability card facing outwards, but on the reverse side it's got something about PATH and my symptoms.
And as you said, even some doctors wouldn't know.
No.
And therefore it's helpful for them to have that input.
I mean, we mentioned this Janet and John sheet beforehand, which we've had printed.
Like a cheat sheet.
We're finding that group members are using it when talking to medical professionals to say that these are the group of symptoms that we can have. And even on the ward rounds, the nurses, you'd think in the hospital would understand, but they absolutely panicked when they took my blood pressure one morning and it was 53/40. And I said, whoa.
They wouldn't have known that was...
Well, they didn't know that was normal for me.
Yeah. There's a level of recognition about hidden disabilities in the wider public awareness. Yes, it's not perfect or it's not great, and there's still a lot of misconceptions, etc., as we discussed. But there is a growing awareness. And I think one of the things you were saying was perhaps there's not always the same growing awareness that if you're a caregiver, you might sometimes need to be with the person. And that's why sort of having something that identifies you as a carer is helpful. How do you find that having that National Carers Card makes that visible or is helpful in that respect? What's the advantage of having both, I guess?
I think because when we go to these places, it's not just Ed they look after as well. It's actually you, which makes you feel, I suppose, good about yourself, that you are playing a role. Because they always ask me whether I'm all right, whether I need anything. And I think it sort of then identifies you as, like you say, not just a spouse. You are there in a capacity to look after somebody. We had an incident in a restaurant where you nearly fainted, didn't you? And they looked after Ed first, but then they said, they made sure I was all right. Did I want anything? Could I manage. Was I okay in myself because Ed had a scare? And I think sometimes going into hospitals as well, if we wear them, they seem to ask if I'm okay. So I think that's quite nice in a way, because then it almost takes the burden off yourself if you're out in a wider community.
You don't have to explain, it's there.
Yeah, yeah, and I think they know, rather than me having nothing, they know you're sort of part of this disability, this problem.
We come as a pair.
Yeah. And you need to be there as well. It's not that, the venue or the service can offer you an adjustment, but then you've got to sort of figure it out. You have to be together to provide that support. So I think for them to know you're a carer is helpful. And that's something we hear from other people. So I think, it's interesting.
I think, yes. I don't know whether if I didn't have it, whether there would be the same level of almost care for me and understanding for me as well, or whether it would be focused on the person that's wearing the disability card. But we find, even with the journeys to London, with the assisted travel, they always ask, are you okay? Do you need anything? Which I think is quite nice, because they've recognised that you're
it triggers help. Not just for me, but for Suzie as well.
Yeah.
It's little things like helping with the luggage and whatever. They see that Susie's a carer. They see us as a pair.
Yeah. And
it's not just me with a disability. It's the carer as well. Is there to look after me, if you like.
Yeah. But
the journey on the railways is probably the best example, because they take as much care of Suzie as they do of me. You travel as a pair.
I think
getting seats as a pair. Maybe,
yes, definitely they do that, and I think sometimes on the almost funny side of it is they see you, a strapping gentleman, and there's me with all the cases and bags and stuff, because they can't carry. They can't. That's another thing. They can't carry bags or anything. So there's me with all the cases and backpacks, and they come to then they look at Ed and go, why is he letting her carry everything? So I think then you've got an awareness there for people to actually ask if you need help. For example, this morning I was carrying the case down the stairs in the hotel, and somebody came and said, do you need help? Would you like me to carry that? So I think you definitely, with the carer's card, you get the help out there, which makes you feel as though you're not on your own trying to look after a person, carry baggage, try and organise
stuff. Makes you feel valued as well.
Yes, for sure.
That's really nice to hear. Well, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story so openly. We really appreciate it, and I know it will resonate with a lot of people. Thank you for being advocates for the scheme as well to other people. Is there kind of one last thing you might want others to know? We're going to link to your new Facebook group and to your new website for anyone who would find that helpful.
We are aware that certain group members have applied for and got cards from you. Just getting that awareness out there.
I think it's so rare. If we help a couple of people, then we've done our job. We're normal people trying to get, normal-ish, trying to get awareness out there for something that is rare.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll do our best to help as well with those links.
Thank you.
And I think a lot of people will find this helpful, so thank you again.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching to the end of this interview. If you found this valuable, please let us know in the comments below. Like this video and subscribe to our channel so you can see more amazing interviews with interesting people about disability and caregiving. And for more information about the National Disability and Carers Card Scheme, you can go to our websites disabilityid.co.uk and nationalcarerscard.org.uk. See you in the next interview.